Welcome to RPG Book Club LongCast, a podcast where we play a little bit of a big video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Maddie Grace Weapon.
And today we will be discussing Chapter 7 of Final Fantasy XIII for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 video game consoles.
You know how usually, up until now, we've been doing 2 chapters an episode? Well, last week we did 2 chapters. This week we did 1 chapter, and yet my notes from this week are twice as long as my notes from last week.
Yeah, if you recall, our main complaint with the game so far was that nothing happened in it, and that most of the levels involved walking down a hallway with intermittent battles, and then there would be lots of cutscenes, but most of the cutscenes were just characters repeating like their one character trait over and over and talking about how we gotta believe in ourselves. Well, the game got better. Now they talk about real shit.
We have 3 characters go through whole-ass character arcs in this chapter.
We have themes emerge. Well, we have themes that had been very present before already, if you really read into it, emerge in more full form. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's real good. And the battles are real fun, especially if you do them wrong, like I did, but we'll get there in a little bit. So without much further ado, let's listen to some kick-ass music from this week, and then we will dive right in.
Say this week did the thing where the field track doesn't change and just goes into the battles. It did that like 2 or 3 times.
Yes,
it was great.
Yeah, I had one really good instance of it.
Somber track, not an upbeat.
We love to see it.
Yes,
that's
love to
the
see
good
it.
Stuff. It's like the oldest trick in the book, and yet it's so good. I wonder what was the first game to do that. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't think FF4 did it, and because the way FF games are so dramatic and stylish, right? If that idea had been invented in 1991, you know FF4 would have done it. So the fact that FF4 doesn't do it makes me think it probably was invented at some point after that. Actually, I don't think FF6 did it either. 7 did, though.
I can't think, off the top of my head, I can't think of an example of a 2D RPG doing it.
I think Chrono Trigger did it. I think we talked about it in our episodes about Chrono Trigger doing it.
Oh, really?
Chrono Trigger does do it for the Sunken Palace.
Cool.
I think. So maybe Chrono Trigger did it first, although there could be some, non-Square game that did it first. Although really the question is which one did it with a slow, sad song. And that might have to go to FF7, but we'll see.
Yeah. So Bernard, what happens in Chapter 7 of this game?
Oh, let's go. So we see airships flying over Palumpolum and dropping off soldiers as Director Roche of SciComm's voice says they must stop Lissy activity or Cocoon will be torn apart. Lightning and Hope hide from the soldiers. Hope says they can make it to the train to Eden, and if it's not still running, they'll make it run. Hope says he knows some old tunnels they can use to sneak through the city. As they make their way to the tunnels, Lightning notes that SciComm has finally brought in the Guardian Corps. They make it into the tunnel and talk about it like it's a normal abandoned facility type place, but it's like this enormous cavern with tons of lighting and platforms floating around. It does not feel like...
Cool.
It is super cool. It does not feel like, abandoned tunnels that I used to play in as a kid.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh boy, is this going to be the old like sewer or train dungeon? As far I'm guessing, it's some kind of like water treatment facility, maybe. Like it's clearly some giant facility, and that's, it would make sense it's underwater or underground. But yeah, no, it's like the way the game smoothly transitions from like you're above ground, just kind of going up and down like stairs in like a town, and there's like military barricades, and then you go into a little pipe with a hole in it, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're in this giant fucking it's a cavern, and something is going on there. Who the hell knows what, right?
Well, they say that the city's food production fallacy carbuncle is there.
Okay. But yeah, so it's some kind of folks. We love our infrastructure.
As they progress, Hope and Lightning muse on the Sanctum Fal'Cie. They've relied on them their whole lives for food, water, and light. Lightning thinks Cocoon was built for the Fal'Cie, and the rest of them are just parasites. Hope says they're like the Fal'Cie's pets. Lightning has an epiphany. I was born into a Fal'Cie world, raised on a Fal'Cie leash. It was the only life I knew how to live. When it was taken from me, I was completely lost. Without a master to follow, my life had no purpose. She says the l'Cie curse took everything from her. She didn't want to think, so she fought. As long as she was fighting, nothing else was real, and Hope got swept up with her. She tells him Operation Nora is over. No, you told me to fight. I made a mistake. Hope thinks Lightning is abandoning him, but she promises him that she won't do that. Hope asks what we do now. Do we just lay down and die? Lightning says she didn't mean they should give up. Then what battles do we fight? And against who? Tell me that. Lightning doesn't know yet, but she does know we can't lose Hope. Hope says there is no hope for l'Cie. Lightning says, there's you. Hope says, that's stupid. He says that's his name, not who he is. Lightning says she was just like Hope. Her parents died and she needed to be strong for Sarah. She wanted to forget her past and became Lightning. She thought by changing her name she could change who she was. Lightning. It flashes bright, then fades away. It can't protect. It only destroys. Sarah tried to tell Lightning what she was going through, but she wouldn't listen. She threatened her. The only one who believed her was Snow. Hope tells Lightning not to say Snow's name. It brings everything back. He replays what happened to her, then sees Snow's smiling face. When he was fighting, there was no time to think about it. It felt good to just give in. But now Lightning starts talking about Hope. He apologizes. Lightning apologizes back. Lightning tells Hope to talk to his dad. She says fighting without Hope is no way to live. And I'm like, yeah, he's a really good synergist. It's just a way to die. She wants him to find the hope he was named for. She can help him stay alive, but can't give him hope. Hope says his dad never listened to him. He'll never believe all this l'Cie stuff. Snow believed Sarah, didn't he? Yeah. Hope and Lightning emerge from the tunnels and find themselves immediately surrounded by soldiers. Oops! Roche tells the soldiers to show them no mercy. They aren't people, they're targets. Lightning tells Hope to start running while she keeps them busy. She tells him to survive. But then an explosion explodes nearby. Snow emerges from it, attacking the soldiers alongside Fang. He summons the Shiva sisters and starts taking out the crowd of soldiers. Lightning starts fighting too. Roche retreats. Once they have a moment, Snow calls out to Lightning. She pushes Hope towards Snow and tells the latter to take care of the former. Lightning runs off as more soldiers approach. Snow fights off more soldiers. After the dust settles, Hope asks Snow where he's been. Snow says he got taken in, but not by enemies. It was the cavalry, not SciComm. The leader, Rains, said he'd help the l'Cie. So now your hero is back. Hope's like, why would the army help us? That doesn't make any sense. Snow says the military has all kinds, and not all of them like the Sanctum. They make their escape. It's not clear what happened to Fang at this point. Snow comments that Hope's toughened up,
Oh yeah.
and that the only ones who should be fighting the army are us dumb grown-ups. You think it's stupid to fight? If it gets you killed. Anyway, just lay low and let the dummies duke it out. The army's no match for Nora, right? Hope grips the survival knife. They do a really good job of having Snow say the wrong thing unknowingly.
That's a great line. Yeah, I do just want to remind everyone, because my girlfriend was watching me play this, and even though we played pretty much all of it together, Kali was a little bit confused at this point. So in case anyone out there is confused, Snow or Hope obviously knows what's up. Hope knows that Snow killed his mom and shit and wants revenge and all that shit. We also know all of this. Snow has no clue at all. Also, Snow knows obviously that Nora is the name of his stupid little anarchist clique, whereas Hope knows both that Nora is the name of Snow's group and that Hope is also that Nora is also the name of his mom. So the double entendre is not lost on Hope. It is also not lost on us, the viewer. But Snow is just like he's just saying his catchphrase and doesn't realize it's extremely funny.
Yes. Snow's cell phone rings, and it looks really weird.
It's a Samsung Juke, but somehow even smaller. Like, it is the tiniest little...
Oh, yeah. It's a weird fucking little phone.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Fang on the line. She's pissed at Snow for not calling in. She gives Lightning her phone and tells her to set a rendezvous point. It turns out Fang and Lightning ended up together in all the chaos. We see Roche order the soldiers to ignore all fire zone restrictions and fire at will. The Guardian Corps soldiers protest. Roche says killing the Lassie is the will of the people. Lightning tells Snow to meet them at Hope's place. Snow says he'll tell her about Sarah when they get there. He found out she can actually turn back. Lightning tries to tell Snow about Hope's mother, but Hope hops on the line before she can. He says something about Operation Nora and having made a decision, but there's too much interference. The call drops. After fighting some soldiers, Lightning asks Fang who she is. She says she's a Lassie, but wasn't born on Cocoon. She's from Grand Pulse, the world down under that they hate so much. She and her partner had turned to Crystal, but woke up on Cocoon. The reason Cocoon is in an uproar is the same reason Lightning is here now. Fang and Vanille woke up. Snow and Hope see soldiers rounding up civilians. Hope worries that more innocents will die. Snow says, "You can't take the blame for that. Someone has to." Snow says they could draw the army's attention, but he's supposed to protect Hope. Only one choice: try to save everyone. Hope is having a normal one. They fight some soldiers. Eventually they get a pitchforks mob after them. Snow scares them away with magic. Snow and Hope end up on the rooftops. Snow sees an ad.
I want to cut something in here. I want to cut something in real quick here. At this scene, he does this whole big scene about how we're going to save everyone, right? Because normally you're just going through battles because the battles were there. But this time, Snow explicitly says, this is my stated character motivation. We're not just going through the dungeon, we're saving everyone. And as we go through this part of the game, this time around, there's a bunch of, instead of just having, guards looking for you, there's a bunch of parts where there's a bunch of civilians, and then there's guards harassing them or saying having them under guard or under pointing their guns at them, and they're what's going on, and you're supposed to be saving all of them by killing all the guards. You can avoid every single battle in this section. It's extremely funny, and the game does not have any kind of commentary where it's wow, that thing that Snow just said he was going to do, he said he was going to save everyone and then ran past 7 different groups of people in need of saving. I think I did fight one of the battles because I was feeling a little bit in character. But then I went back to skipping all of them and thought this is extremely funny. So yeah, totally. In fact, it might even be easier than usual to skip the battles, frankly. So try that if you feel like telling the game to go fuck itself.
All right. From the rooftops, Snow sees an ad for Hope's apartment complex that says it's a great place for family living. Hope says LaCie don't have family anyway. Snow tells him that he's an orphan who never got to know his family, but one day he'll have one of his own after he saves Sarah and protects Cocoon. I love how he is saying, like, the vague idea of protecting Cocoon is just something he'll do and then it'll be done.
Yeah.
Hope asks how exactly. Snow gives a speech about holding on to hope, but Hope says they don't have any hope. LaCie's only hope is a quick death. After fighting their way through more soldiers, Hope stops Snow. Hope asks what he would do if this family he wants was taken from him. Snow says he'd take them back. And what if you couldn't? What if you knew who was to blame? Well, then there'd be trouble. Before this conversation can get any crazier, a boss appears. They fight it, and it flies off. They take a break. Hope asks Snow what he plans to do. Snow gives a speech about how you've got to keep fighting. And what about when you get the people around you involved? What happens when your actions end up ruining someone's life? What if someone dies? What then, Snow? Snow remembers Sarah, his comrades, and Hope's mother. How do you pay for what you've done? Hope asks. I can't, Snow yells. There's nothing that can make something like that right again. When someone's dead, someone's gone, words are useless. So that's just it? People die and you just run away? I know it's all my fault, but I don't know how to fix it. Where do you start? What do you say? All I can do is go forward, keep fighting and surviving until I find the answers I need. There are no answers. You're running from what you deserve. Well, why don't you tell me what I deserve? The same fate. Magic bursts from Hope. It knocks Snow back. He dangles from the ledge. Hope tells Snow his mother died because of him. Snow realizes Hope is who she meant with her vague last words. Hope holds up his knife, but before he can bring it down on Snow, an army ship fires missiles at them. The explosion knocks Hope off the roof. Snow leaps to catch him. They hit awnings as they fall to the ground, but Snow shields Hope as best he can. Day 5 in Uriday Gorge Energy Plant. When we came out of crystal stasis, we didn't remember our focus or what we'd done. All we could do was wander Cocoon, looking for what we'd lost. Vanille tells Fang they should forget their focus. Making a kid that young LaCie, it's not right. So I guess y'all were right. And I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fang says they grin and bear it like good LaCie, or the Fal'Cie starts making more. Like
they
that
don't
girl
grin
the
and
other
bear
day.
it. They grin and saws.
What?
They grin and bear it, and I said no. It's saws is the one is in this game. Don't bear it.
Oh. We do our focus whether we like it or not. We do what we have to do to get off this filthy world. Fang sends Vanille ahead to escape while she buys her time. That's how they got separated. After Fang fought off the soldiers at the plant, Rains and his cavalry found her, but she could never find Vanille, her or her focus. Back in the present, Lightning asks if that means Sarah will come back to life too. Yes, Fang says. They didn't do their job right. That's why it made her a LaCie. We messed up. Lightning backhands the shit out of Fang. That it? She asks. You sure better hope so. But whether we're square, that's up to Sarah. Fang says she sounds like Snow, except he didn't hit her. She feels better now that she's apologized. She asks Lightning if hitting her made her feel better. It didn't change anything. Tell that to my jaw.
This scene is very hot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sexual tension between these two.
Yes. After fighting through some soldiers, they stop to try and call Snow. The line is still jammed. Lightning asks if the others are okay, because surely there would have been an announcement if they'd been caught. She also muses that if it weren't for Sarah, she'd be out there hunting Lassie too. Fang reveals that Pulse is as scared of Cocoon as Cocoon is of Pulse. Lightning says destroying Cocoon may be Fang's focus and her own. Fang says she and Vanille were in crystal stasis, so they must have completed their first focus, but why can't she remember that part? And why is her brand different? Fang says Pulse and Cocoon can rot for all she cares. All that matters is keeping Vanille from becoming a Seath. She'll tear down the sky if that'll save her. And I have in my notes here, lesbians.
That's right. Although, my girlfriend couldn't help but mention that if they are doing lesbians, which I think the game is very heavily queer baiting these characters the whole game, very, very problematic age gap, gotta say. I mean, it's anime, so it's probably like a 19-year-old and an 18-year-old, but it looks like a 35-year-old and a 16-year-old.
I don't know what Fang's age is, or what Vanille's age is.
But Fang definitely comes off as older, and Vanille comes off as a tiny baby.
Vanille comes off as a full-grown adult acting like a tiny baby because she thinks it's cute.
Maybe that's true. Well, regardless, I'm sure if you look in the manual, it's like, Fong's the old lady of the group. She's 25. Yeah. Also, so you know how Vanille has the most weird accent in the world that is like not anyone's accent, and it's like it's a little bit Australian, but also a little bit just like complete horseshit, and like what even is it? Fong just is Australian, like that's it. It's much more standard and normal, and I'm like, aren't y'all from the same place?
Yeah, so, they're from down under.
Fang is 21. Vanille is 19. So
Fang does not look 21.
Which adjusted for anime, that's a problematic age gap.
Yeah.
That's literally an old lady. That's an old lady and a baby.
Some Harold and Maude shit. Anyway, after traveling further, Fang asks Lightning if she saw Vanille's brand. She didn't. Fang says the brand shows how long you have to become how long until you become a Seath. It eventually develops an eye, and when the eye opens, you become a Seath. The timing varies and can be sped up by a nasty shock. Vanille's must be pretty far along, Fang says. She reiterates her plan to save Vanille and get her back to Grand Pulse. Lightning wishes she had a plan. Without Sarah, she has nothing to plan for. No way out of this mess. No way to fight it. Trading blows with Sanctum is no plan. She may as well be dead, she says. Fang tells her future is seeing Sarah after she wakes up. Airships zoom overhead, and they realize the army's found Snow. We see Snow wake up. He sees the survival knife and takes it. With great difficulty, he carries the unconscious Hope to safety. Eventually, Hope wakes up and asks Snow why he saved him. Snow says he was asked to keep Hope safe by Lightning and by Nora. He apologizes. It's his fault. He put her in danger. He tells Hope that he was using the idea that apologies were useless and that there's nothing he can do to make things right as an excuse to run away from his guilt. He gives Hope back the knife. He says Sarah gave Lightning that knife. If Lightning trusted Hope with it, he should carry it. Snow says he'll try to make things right, and if he can't, he'll take any punishment Hope wants to give him. Hope says Snow can take the blame, but it won't bring her back. He knew that all along. But he had to blame someone. He needed a reason to keep fighting. Snow says it wasn't someone's fault. It was his. The boss from before reappears. Snow tries to protect Hope, but gets knocked unconscious. Hope says Snow can't die here. He won't let him. Hope holds off the boss on his own until Lightning and Fang show up. They fight off the boss. Hope gives Lightning her knife and says Operation Nora didn't work out. Lightning hugs Hope and tells him she'll keep him safe. He says he'll try to keep Lightning safe too. Fang checks on Snow and says he'll be all right. They carry Snow and the group heads to Hope's place. Hope's father, Bartholomew, rushes out when he sees Hope. Hope tells him that Mom is gone. We see Bartholomew and Hope in the living room. Bartholomew is crying. Hope says he'll be in his room. They'll rest up, then leave. The army can't find out he's sheltering LaCie. Bartholomew tells Hope that he is his son, and this is his home. Fang wanders around Hope's house. She turns on the TV. A news report says that citizens of Palumpolum who have come into contact with the LaCie have been quarantined, and their viewer poll shows overwhelming support for purging them. What a surprise. We see Lightning watching over the convalescing Snow. He wakes up and sees Lightning holding the knife. She says Hope gave it back, that he doesn't need it anymore. Lightning says it was too much what happened to Sarah. She hated herself for not trusting her. It hurt too much. She couldn't face it. I'm sorry. Forgive me. For what? Everything. If you told me your real name, I suppose I could. Have Sarah tell you when she comes back.
Her real name is Zach Fair.
I hope we never find out her real name. I mean, that makes sense. But yeah, if at the end of like the third game, they're like, she's like, my name is Clarice or some shit like that.
My name.
Actually,
is
that's actually great because obviously the correct decision that Square would clearly be aware of would be to never reveal her name. So actually having her have like a normal last name would be pretty funny.
I mean, her sister's name is Sarah, which is a pretty normal name.
Yeah.
Hope enters and says his dad wants to talk with all of them. Bartholomew thanks Snow for keeping Hope safe and bringing him home. He muses that it's hard to believe they're all dangerous fugitives. Cocoon is full of people terrified of them and anyone they came in contact with. Snow says they'll take down Sanctum and save Cocoon. Bartholomew says that'll just make the fear of Pulse worse. Lightning says when the government's control is gone, the citizens will revolt. Bartholomew accepts that he's a public enemy now, too. He says they should all figure this out together. But then the lights go out. Soldiers bust in. Hope instructs Snow to get Bartholomew to safety, while he helps fight off the soldiers. After Lightning, Fang, and Hope fight off the soldiers in the house, a huge squad shows up outside. Snow gets half naked and tries to appeal to them. Roche steps forward and tells him the Pulse threat is not so easily dismissed. He says the LaCie's lives are forfeit. Snow says if they want the LaCie, kill the LaCie, but stop the purges. Roche says without the purge, there would be chaos and Cocoon would die. But then some big airship attacks the SciComm squad? That's what happens, right?
Yeah, and after the end of this boss battle, I believe there's a resolution to why, but the resolution does not actually make sense. So, don't worry about it.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure Roche gets got here.
Yeah, he dies. He has his dramatic death scene, even though he's been a villain for like 2 chapters.
Just this chapter, I think.
Yeah, he was introduced at the beginning of this chapter.
Gotcha. Yeah. There you go.
He's still pretty cool, though, as a villain. Lightning instructs Hope to tie up his dad and says the story is that they threatened him and forced him to help them. Bartholomew tells Hope to make his choice and follow his own path and stuff. Hope hugs him. Outside, the smoke clears and the airship that took out SciComm turns its focus to Snow. Lightning, Hope, and Fang run out to fight it. After they beat it, a second airship arrives to kill them. Then a third airship kills the second airship. The third airship lands, and some guy named Rigdea, who apparently knows Fang, saunters out and offers them assistance. And that didn't take nearly as long as I worried it would.
Yeah, we booked it through, but
Yep.
it was real good this week.
Yeah.
So this final boss of the chapter that we just did, I had a heck of a time with because I'm stupid. So I had been skipping a lot of battles because, again, I procrastinated this week. I got really enjoying this game, but it's always like, oh, I want to save that for like the night that it's ready. And you only get like 5 of those in between recording days. So I was like skipping battles, and I get up against this final boss, and he like destroys me in like 3 turns, and I'm not doing any damage. So I'm like, okay, tomorrow I will make up for all of the times that I skipped battles, and while I'm working, I'll just mash X on, because the cops that break into Snow's house to fight you, they endlessly respawn on a really short walk away from them, so they're really easy to grind in there. So I ground all day today, and I go out to fight him again, and it's still ridiculously hard. I am doing barely any damage. It is kicking my ass every couple of turns, and I'm having to switch over to 2 healers and a commando to try and just survive the whole time. And it takes me 17 minutes. And then at the end, it's like, you suck if this took 8 minutes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because this is the classic. There's a big thing that you can't damage, but you can target the other little bits. But because I was freaking out so bad because I died so hard the first time, I was mashing through the fight screen. So I never saw you can attack the wings or the turrets or whatever the fuck part of it. Because if you fight those, it goes down in like 4 hits. Yeah. It's not a super hard boss.
Well, and also even more importantly, if you attack all the other buddies that are shooting at you, there's fewer buddies shooting at you, right?
Yeah.
Very, very good decision by the game designers, though, to make sure to make those, because like the part where you're in the apartment, it literally takes like 5 seconds. It's literally 1 or 2 real quick battles just in between 2 cutscenes. Mm-hmm. So making it where you can run around, and if you like run in a circle around the apartment, they'll respawn. Very, very good they did that, because that could theoretically be like a soft block for your whole game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, this battle was really tough. I did a bit of grinding, not a ton. I mean, I'm trying to avoid grinding, but I did a bit. And I also did a lot of rejiggering of my paradigms, like a whole lot, like. Because we're finally fighting with 3 people. One of my memoirs, actually, I was going to mention is I was going to mention it later, but whatever. Is the scene where it's just Snow and Hope, and then Snow's out of commission, and then Hope gets trying to fight bad guys, and it's like, oh no, they really build this up here. It's like Hope's all alone. It has to protect himself and Snow. It's this really dramatic character moment for him. And then you have a boss battle, and it's just Hope, and it's like, oh, this is obviously an auto, a forced loss battle, right? I was expecting this to be the moment where Hope summons his Eidolon, right? Like, oh, this is his big moment. But no, this is a different big moment, because this is the first time, maybe early at the very beginning of the game this happened, but who cares, because the game didn't have a real battle system at that point. This is the first time since the game was a real game where you have 3 characters in your party. So that really is actually the dramatic moment here. It's like, surprise! After hours and hours and hours of various 2-person parties, you finally get a 3-person party.
And they do
really
it
cool.
They do it so cool. So like video games are not movies, and because they're not movies, they can do things that movies can't do to tell stories. And the way that they tell the story here is Hope gets wrecked, like he's down, you get knocked down to just a couple HP, and then you see the party change UI pop up before Lightning and Fang show up, and it's like, here, you got 3 party members, bucko, and then they pop in, and it's just such a good moment right there. And they use the language of video games to do it, and I love it.
And I gotta say, I had a long talk with my partner about this. People give this game so much shit for, they always say like, oh, the first 20 hours are tutorial. First of all, no, it's not. That's stupid. Is the first 9 hours of Metroid a tutorial because I don't have every ability? Like that, like, right? Like, you don't, a game isn't a tutorial because it hasn't unveiled every one of its mechanics. That's stupid. Right?
Yeah.
No, the game is what it is. The game, or like in StarCraft, are the first 8 out of 10 campaign levels of StarCraft a tutorial because you don't have every enemy, every unit in your tech tree? No, that's stupid. Well, actually, ironically, in StarCraft it very much is, because in most RTSs, the campaign is pretty much just a tutorial for the online play, but whatever. But at any rate, though, no, like the game forcing you to use certain party combos and learn all the different strats. That is the game. That's not just, I mean, yes, it's teaching you. And as we mentioned last week, it's really cool how no two synergists, no two medics, no two attackers are actually the same. Every character is unique. Even two characters with the same class are unique. For example, learning that like Snow is by far the heaviest hitter in the game. He does so much fucking damage. Lightning actually doesn't do a ton. Lightning's relatively balanced. Or like, Vanille does so much damage as a Ravager that even when you're trying to deal damage and don't care about chain, you really shouldn't put her on Commando, because she just does way more damage as a Ravager because her magic skill is higher, right? Stuff like that. You learn all these little quirks. So anyway, the point is, the partner was like, "Hey, do you think it was necessary for the game to take so long to have you learn all the ins and outs of the characters' classes and their differences with only 2 party members? That way, once it adds in the third one, you can handle it? Or is the shift in vibe is having 3 so much different than having 2 that really it's like it didn't prepare you at all?" And I think it's very much the first. Like I've learned so much now about, like, okay, you want to be on Commando and Ravager for a while in order to get their chain bonus up. But first you start with Commando and Ravager. But after you've hit them for a bit and sort of, what do you call it? Like firmed up their chain going down. Then you switch to...
You raise their gel viscosity.
Yeah. Exactly. You raise their viscosity. That's actually a great term. Once you raise their viscosity a little bit, which I guess is some hidden variable, then you switch to just double Ravager, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, if you want to heal, you probably want to switch to like Commando Medic, or if you want to do some buffs, you generally are going to do Commando and Support. Or if it's the beginning of the battle, if you haven't hit anyone yet, then you can just do double Support. So then you add in a third character, and it's like, okay, I can do Commando and Ravager and Medic. Or if the enemy isn't hitting, so instead of it feeling like a whole new set of variables, it just feels like, okay, we know about the bread and butter combo of Commando Medic or Commando Ravager, but now you get 2 different flavors of it. You can do Commando Ravager, or you can do Commando Ravager Medic. And which one you go with depends on how much damage the boss is doing at you, right? And then, like, normally when you get hurt, you just want to switch to usually Commando Medic, which is just the same as Commando Medic, but with an extra one. So it's like, it's almost like subclassing. It's like in FF5, it's like, okay, we all know how black mages work, but what if your black mage also had some white magic? Or what if your black mage had, stealing? Or what if your black mage had whatever, right? You get to kind of do a little bit of variation on a certain kind of play. That's how it feels. It's like, okay, I understand the basic concepts behind how a battle works, but now at each moment I have an extra little thing. I have a third character to deal with, and that just gives me a bit more options here. And like, I know at some point you can go like 3 medics if you need to, right? Once you get to that point in the game where that's necessary. And also, like, we haven't talked about her yet, but Fong, she's cool as hell. She has slow and sloga, which is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. But anyway, all that is to say, it's really cool exploring the whole 3 characters thing. And for this battle, I at no point was able to do Commando Ravager at any point. It was always either 1 medic or 2. And but I had to put a ton of thought into all the strategies behind this battle. But I did also have to level up Hope because I'm not sure if this battle is really even doable if you don't have Cura. So it was having Cura, but also being real smart that allowed me to win. I'm glad it was both. I'm glad it wasn't just like, oh, I needed Cura and now it's easy, you know?
Yeah.
Also, not only is it a really cool moment mechanically, it's a really cool moment dramatically when you've had all these people split up, and now we've been dealing with variations of different parties being switching back and forth between them. But here, the parties converge, and now you pose as a team because shit just got real.
Yeah, and to be clear, they converge because they've also learned, they've grown as characters and have gotten over some of their personal conflicts. And also, even more than that, we've had two groups of two the whole time. 2 plus 2 is 4. But what does the game do? Cleverly makes one of them be out of commission so that you can have your full 3-person party without it feeling contrived that the fourth guy isn't there, right? It's like, no, the 3 of us are all here to protect Snow because one of us got hurt. And even though 2 of us have very complicated feelings about Snow, right? Lightning has very complicated feelings about Snow, and Hope also has very complicated feelings about Snow. Fong probably just wants to peg him. But like, they're all fighting to protect this guy, and you have 3-person party without any gameplay contrivances. It's good, folks. It's that moment, that battle, that plot scene and moment is like the whole point of what you're supposed to be doing if you're doing a game like this.
Yeah.
Like, if you're bothering with this whole way of doing a game, this is the whole reason you're doing it. If you're not doing it, you're kind of wasting the conceptual premise of your game.
Since we've already gotten into memorable moments, and I'm guessing you'll just cut in the music earlier, I'll go ahead and say one of mine. I like how we don't see Bartholomew being a bad dad. I like that it sort of seems that Bartholomew just maybe isn't great at communicating or something, but Hope doesn't really have a particularly strong reason to hate his dad. Maybe as a teen you don't need a particularly strong reason to hate your dad, but I like how the only thing we see of Bartholomew is him being a good dad when it really counts. And maybe he just isn't great at being a dad all the time, but when it really counts, we see him being a good dad.
Yeah, and maybe like, you know, because I was expecting him to be a shitty dad because Hope kept being like, oh, I don't want to go home, I don't like my dad, but maybe he's just an angsty teen. Maybe he's just an angsty teen, and being a single dad is hard. And maybe Hope, because Hope also seems very, like, he has a lot of self-esteem problems, maybe Hope just thought that his dad would be mad at him, but actually he wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like, just misunderstanding. I was very surprised to be like, oh, Bartholomew's great. That whole scene was weird to me, though, because I feel like this is like the first time in like almost the entire game since like the first chapter when there's been a character on screen that isn't one of the party characters or a villain.
Yeah.
It kind of feels a little homestucky at times where like the entire universe is just these 7 people. You know what I mean? Like, there's no real world building or sense of like a society or world that exists. It's very like myopic, where it's like, yeah, there's the drama between the 6 leads and there's the villains, and they're just in an abstract no space the entire game, and that's all it is. So to all of a sudden be like, oh, this guy's got a dad and he's just a civilian, but he has lots of lines and is a character. It felt kind of weird.
As for my memorable moments, the architecture, like, because when people were telling me how much they didn't like Final Fantasy 13, they were like, yeah, because there are no towns, and here we are in a town, and it's a good one, and I like it. Towns can be dungeons too, and it's good, and I loved walking through the space in this chapter.
It's amazing how much better the game feels, not just when the characters are talking about real things, but also when the location is a real place. Like
Mhm.
walking on rooftops and through alleyways and across boulevards and down streets and up and down beautiful little terraces and stairs feels so much better than running through a technological glowy pathway through a forest, but like up in the air where there's just a bunch of trees and shit and a random path with a bunch of glowy shit that you don't know what it is. It really is a lot better.
Yeah. Another one that I had is I realized in this game that Hope is good, and he's exactly the way that Vaughn is not from Final Fantasy 12.
That's I like that. Yeah.
Like they archetypically they're the same character, and they even have similar sounding English voices and haircuts. But Hope is good, and Vaughn is bad, very bad, and I do not like him at all. And I can't really put my finger on why. It's just they apologize for Vaughn by trying again for Hope, and I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is a great character. I like him so much.
Yeah. That's another thing that I was surprised I liked a lot, because the like blogosphere vibe of Final Fantasy 13, everyone complains about Hope and how whiny he is and this, that, and the other, and how he ruins the otherwise great cast. But to me, he's like the emotional backbone. He's the only person that's been like feeling his feelings on the surface the whole game. Everyone else has been like super double, triple combo Bob reversal their feelings, and he's just been like, fuck this guy the whole time, and it's been good, and I really like it.
I do hear, I think I've heard that in Japanese he has a really annoying voice. So
maybe so.
Bernard, you got any more?
In English, his voice is great. I'm trying to think if there are any more. A lot of them are just like, you know what my memorable moments are, because they're the scenes I took down word for word.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share some of mine then. Not really deep, memorable moments, because it's just the stuff you already said, but I want to comment on some of them, because boy, did I like some of this stuff. As I mentioned last week, I feel like the game is very political in a certain sense of the word politics. And this game, this chapter largely highlighted it. Last week, I was like, Lightning did nothing wrong. And you know what? I was wrong. Lightning did do something wrong. Well, sort of. I respected Lightning a lot last time because she's like, no, they're the bad guys. I'm going to murder them. What I forgot is that this game isn't set in the real world. This game is set in weird fantasy world where there is all sorts of extremely abstract fantasy lore bullshit. So, let's go kill the bad guy is not actually the right thing to do in this case because of the weird fantasy lore bullshit, and I hadn't really accounted for that. You know what I mean? So this chapter is literally, you have multiple characters who basically just give speeches that are like, yeah, when I found out that I was a l'Cie, I just kind of went nuts for a while because of my emotions. And every character deals with it in a different way. Lightning says, I'm going to go murder the bad guy. Hope says, I'm going to get revenge, personal revenge for my mom. Snow is like, I'm going to save everyone, and be very naively idealistic about what that means, and just do whatever pops up in front of me like a dog. Like, he changes his plans like 20 times. Vanille says, I'm literally just going to get out of Dodge. And Saz, well, we don't actually know what Saz's deal is yet. He's sort of confused. But every character just reacts to this in a different way, and what they're reacting to is lack of hope, is having no hope at all, is none of them believe that there is a solution to their problem. And if you don't believe there's a solution to your problem, then you're just going to do whatever feels good, right? You're not trying to solve the problem, you're just trying to feel better about about dying, basically. You're feeling better about losing. And Lightning, and I had glommed onto this for every other character, but I hadn't realized that Lightning is also doing it. And she literally says, she's like, yeah, me fighting in the way I was fighting was actually just running away. Like, she literally says that, right? And it's so cool how the game shows that. And the key line is the one that Bernard already mentioned. First of all, she says, I didn't want to think, so I fought instead. Those two key lines. The first is the line that Hope asks, where he says, what battles do we fight and against who? That's the question, man. That's like the question of life. That's the question of existence. That's certainly the question of politics. And I like how up until now, no characters actually asked that question. They've just gone with whatever felt good. And now they're like, wait a second. We need to stop and answer these questions. Otherwise, nothing we do is going to matter. But then, what line I really like is when Hope says, when I was fighting, there was no room to think about it, but now you talk about hope. And he says it so he says it very angrily, like, how dare you talk about hope? And he's saying that what's he implying? He's implying that he did not have any hope. He scoffs at the idea of hope, right? And that's why he's like, I don't have any hope that anything can ever be solved or get better in the world. So therefore, I'm just going to fight so I don't have to think about it, right? People do that in many ways. They make art. They indulge in just consumption, self-destructive behaviors. That's all just a reaction to having no hope. But then Lightning has her key line that I loved so much, where she says, fighting without, first of all, it's clever and badass. It's a good one-liner. She goes, to use Bernard's Lightning voice, fighting without hope is no way to live. It's just a way to die. And that line can be read in two different ways. Okay, and maybe y'all are already aware of this, but if anyone out there listening hasn't glommed on, I think that there's two different ways you can read this line. It can be both causational and effectual, I guess you could say. You could say that fighting without hope is what you like. If you don't have hope, then fighting anyway is just a way to die. Like, you go out fighting, hey, I have no hope, I can't change anything, I might as well go out with some sense of dignity. So that's what you can say, fighting without hope is the way I'm choosing to die. It's a way to die. But it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you fight without hope, then you're going to die. That's the opposite, right? Instead of saying, because I'm going to die, I'm fighting without hope, it's because I'm fighting without hope, I'm going to die. And why are you going to die? Because if you don't have hope, then basically having no hope in the future is a bad strategy, basically. You're not going to be able to figure out what to do if you don't actually have hope that there's a possibility of success. You have to be able to conceive of victory in order to find out what actions need to be taken to achieve that. So it's just a really deep line. It's really beautiful, and I love it. Few more brief things, and then I will shut up. I liked how at the beginning Roche says, if we fail, our citizens will pay the price. There's this whole thing where Roche sometimes just seems like a villain, but other times it's like, oh no, you do actually think what you're doing is right and care about the citizens. It's a little confusing. Actual society of this game is a little underdeveloped, but it does seem like, oh no, you actually just are trying to, like, you think that this is actually a threat to society and you're really trying to stop it. That's kind of interesting. I appreciated that. Early on in the game, like right at the beginning, when you first show up, Lightning's like, yeah, let's go get the Sanctum. And Hope goes, yeah, it's not just snow we're after. The Sanctum has to pay too. And when he says that, Lightning kind of gives like a sigh. And then she's like, come on, because I think after the previous chapter, she thought that she had convinced Hope that getting revenge on Snow was actually stupid. So when Hope says that, she's like, oh, you're still on that? God damn it. I thought we were past this. Which is cute. And then finally, one more, which is, I thought that the line about what if someone dies is a really funny line, because Hope is right in general, but actually not in specific. Snow did nothing wrong vis-a-vis Nora. IMO.
Yeah.
Hope's his mom volunteered because she wanted to fight to save people and specifically to save her son. Snow accepted her as a volunteer. He did nothing wrong. However, in general, Snow does act extremely recklessly at all times and fights with no hope and also with no strategy. At no point does anything Snow does make sense if we're trying to say, like, if you are a leader, you do. It is true. Like, if you're a leader, should you be okay with the people under your leadership dying or getting arrested? Well, yes, you shouldn't run away from that, but it also should not happen without reason. Right. Someone famously said, I forget who, it might have been Ralph Miliband, said, people say you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, but it's definitely possible to break lots of eggs without making an omelet. So if you're sacrificing people's lives for no reason, that's bad leadership. So I think that the way Snow acts and his stupid, I'm just going to go and save everyone and not even think about it, is obviously a way to get people killed and is terrible leadership, and he is responsible for it. And Hope's right about that. But in the specific instance of Hope's mom dying, no, actually, he didn't really do anything wrong. I don't see any problems there. Hope is just being a little bitch.
What Snow did wrong was wear really slick, slippery-looking gloves.
Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, I thought there was an interesting little complexity there, where maybe Hope... Maybe the Hope is, I guess, still more right than he knows, because even if Snow didn't really do anything wrong because of Hope's mom dying, Hope has seen the way Snow has acted the last 10 hours of this game and is like, yeah, you're clearly the kind of person who gets people killed for no reason, you know? So you're still guilty of being like this, you could say. Anyway, yeah, those are all of my thoughts that I hollered about.
Yeah, I really like this game. Like,
yeah,
warts and all. Like when I first started playing it, I was like, oh, like if they did a modern remaster of it, the quality of life things I would want were being able to change your party when you have multiple people there and uncap the Crystarium. But now I'm basically only at uncap the Crystarium. Like,
yep,
that fast forward and a modern camera control scheme. Like, that's all.
Yeah,
all I need.
Please make the camera and also the general controls out of battle better, because you control like iced molasses and also the camera's garbage. I guess that's a pretty objective thing that can be fixed. But like, look, if you're into the characters and the plot and the gameplay and the graphics and the music, you'll wrestle with the controls, like whatever.
Yeah.
One thing I am really happy about, you know how you can get the jump on enemies? I'm really glad that enemies can't get the jump on you, because that game does not control well enough for that to... The game controls poorly enough that when that happens, it's usually not your fault when they get at you from behind. So I'm glad that doesn't actually affect anything.
And the controls are so bad that when I was running around trying to grind earlier, so many times, like one of them would be coming like at me and I would try to aim at him, but I would miss. And then I would make my way through the entire crowd of enemies, not hitting any of them that I was trying to hit, because you can't turn on a dime or anything. You just kind of like waddle your way through everything.
Yeah.
And it's like whenever I'm trying to get past, I can't, and when I'm trying to hit them, I can't. I just can't win with minute controls in this game.
Yeah, it's funny how easy it is to just like juke your way through a group of enemies.
Yeah. But I think that's everything I have to say about this week. What about you guys?
I like this game a lot more than I expected to. And I think I'm really glad y'all read the data log at the beginning, because having that context made the beginning of the game so much better. And I feel like making the beginning of the game better has just sort of given the whole narrative and the characters more momentum.
Yeah, and I still feel like, the first 6 chapters of the game, especially chapters like 3, 4, and 5 and 6, could have been like a lot better. Mostly shorter. But like whatever. And especially now that I understand the arc of it, where it's like, oh, the first third of this game is every character being really dumb because they're having a nihilistic freak out at the idea that they're going to be cursed to be a crystal forever. Who wouldn't? Right? And the arc is them learning to get over that and yeah, to process that and then think about who they actually are in the world and what they want to do, which is, now that I've seen that arc happen, I'm like, okay, that actually makes the earlier parts where they're just yelling the same thing over and over a little better, right? Even though it's still kind of annoying and does go on too long.
Speaking of the data log, so I was following along on the data log to remind me of everything that happened, and that didn't go very well for me because the data log this week, even though a lot of actual things happen that it could remind you of the things that happen, the data log is 100% just expanding on people's emotions and thought processes and stuff like that. And it's really good and really well written. And I highly recommend when you beat this game, Bernard, to just go back and check out a couple of your favorite chapters' data logs, because it's really good. But yeah, I think that'll do it. Thank you to everyone who has donated on the Ko-Fi to unlock these episodes. I am so thrilled that we're doing them, and I'm so glad we get to dive right into 13.2 when this one is over. And I'm like, Final Fantasy 13 was going to be the first one we did, and then we were going to do Golden Sun to make it easier on Eli, and then Eli quit, so we changed it to .hack. So it's like been on like the tip of my tongue podcast wise for like 3.5 years now. So I'm super excited that we're finally playing it, and it's super dope. If you want us to play Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where all donations will go towards unlocking the last game in this trilogy. And super looking forward to that. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Ullman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye, folks. Yo, I just beat Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Also, you're right. Fighting two of those guys at once that's a really hard fight.
And I looked up tips and just was spoiled on the fact that there's another one coming. So
yeah. And I'm pretty sure the only tip is just get good. The only real tip is it's got 2 different melee attacks, one of which you can counter, one of which you can't, and you got to get real good at reading it.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you fight one of these things, and then later you fight 2 of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's sort of a mini boss that recurs. You actually fight these guys a kind of a bunch throughout the game, maybe more frequently than necessary. But yeah, after a certain point in the game, they just kind of start showing up. Sometimes you'll be like backtracking through a room, and then oh no, here's this guy again, and they kind of get tougher as you progress.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a real big room too. You got to get real good at your backdash.
Yeah.
And the worst part is actually, if you notice, Sam, the melee attack that charges at you. If you my instinctive reaction personally would be to jump and then either try to dash away from it or dash over its head. But if you try and dash over its head, you actually hit the attack.
Yeah.
But there's a timing trick to it. The beginning of its attack, it has like a taller hurt box. Hitbox, and then as it goes, it gets less. So if you like wait a second to dash over its head, you'll be able to do it without getting hurt. It's like, yeah, it's like when it first starts doing its dash, it's got like this big, tall hitbox, and then as it dashes forward, it's got a thin one.
It also, like, it's based on like your ground position where it attacks. So if you see it turn red, which is the earliest tell, you jump right away. It'll kind of go through the motions slower, make it easier to jump across. But if you wait until it flashes big when the attack actually starts, you're probably not making it.
I didn't notice that. Yeah. I pretty much just played the defensive game where if it was red, I would always like be on the edge of a ledge, and if it was red, I would just back off the edge, right? Kind of went around like in a circle. It's a tough fight though. That one took me a bunch of tries. So I defeat the final boss. I kind of feel like I felt like the game shat the bed a little bit at the end. And in fact, at first I thought, wow, this final boss sucks. It doesn't actually suck. It's actually quite good. Not the best boss in the game, but it's a good one. It's got multiple phases, and as far as I can tell, the first phase totally breaks what I like about the rest of the bosses in the game, which is the rest of the bosses in the game. It's kind of like they took a lesson from Mega Man, which is like there's not any point where you can't hurt them, or at least very few points where you can't hurt them. Sanity, notice how in the game so far, the bosses have these patterns, and in the pattern, there's often a place where it's like, here's the part where you get to shoot it, but you can actually shoot it anytime.
Yeah.
If you're just like being good. I always thought that was cool, right? It's like, oh, if you're not as good, like here's the part where you get to shoot it. But really, if you're being real clever, you can actually keep the pressure up constantly. The final boss, the first phase, as far as I can tell, after you get to a certain point, the only way you can hurt it is to wait for it to do a certain melee attack and then counter it.
Damn.
And it's RNG like when it does it.
That sucks.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was missing something, but I'm like, no, I had to fight this boss like 20 times because it's really hard. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that you literally just dodge its attacks until it basically taunts you, and then you go in and it tries to melee you and you counter it, and then you shoot it, and you have to do that twice in order to get its health down enough to go to the next phase. Phase 2, I was initially like, holy fucking bitch, this is way too hard. Like, it's such a huge difficulty spike for the final boss of the game. So then I actually did something I've never done in any Metro game before, which is I actually went around and grinded for health. For health packs. I actually like went and explored, because I hadn't really been exploring much. I've been mostly just like focusing on the goal. Anyway, yeah, I actually went around and had to gain like 3 extra health containers, although, as usual, the difference did not actually come from me getting more health, it came from me getting good. Yeah. Because look, if you can't dodge the attack, it doesn't matter if you have 5 health containers or 10. Like,
yeah.
So it turns out if I had just kept trying the boss instead of going and grinding, I probably would have beaten it a lot faster.
Yeah. Every boss I've gotten stuck on, so the first Chozo robot and then the water one, they like, I got super stuck, so I'm like, all right, let me go and try and grind for stuff, and I'm locked in the room. All I can do is walk forward and fight. All you can do is get good, and it's like, well, god damn it. But all the attacks always have super clear tells. It's like by the time I did on my final run of the boss, the run that did end up me beating it, I took like very low damage. Like I was well into the second phase before I even took a single point of damage. Like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I'm playing 50 times better than I was literally 2 minutes ago, just because I'm kind of just in the zone, and I know all of the tells. Every single time I've beaten a boss that I've been stuck on, I've beaten it with like full energy.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was for me, and it's like that's good. That's good shit right there.
Yeah, this game is making me think that I should try a Dark Souls, because similar to what I hear from that is this is incredibly hard but incredibly fair. and maybe I'll like
we do have
a
game is
soul.
how fast paced it is. Like it is really, really like you gotta have fucking reflexes. Like it's especially with with those backdashes. And man, spoiler alert, this isn't a spoiler, of course, it's a Metroid game. At some point you do in fact get Shine Spark, right? And
Already got it. You get it really early in this game.
Dude, turns out the Shine Spark mechanics are whack, and some of the collectibles, some of the really hard collectibles require like outrageous Shine Spark platforming. I'll go ahead and just tell you because I did have to look this up because the game not only doesn't tell you, but I don't think I would have figured it out. Like the mechanic, the edge case here is subtle enough where I think I wouldn't have ever accidentally discovered it. If you Shine Spark into an upward slant, an incline, instead of like crashing into it and then you're done, you'll go back into a charged up run.
Oh, that explains how to get some of these missile tanks I've been
you go.
Saying.
Yeah, so you have to do the Shine Spark into the ramp, run up the ramp, and when you get to the top, hit down to save your Shine Spark, and then repeat that. And you'll have, and there's tanks where you have to do that like 3 times in a row, and then do really quick like turn into a ball, turn out of a ball, right? Also, you might have noticed that you can't Shine Spark if you're jumping in like spin mode, like spin jump. Double tap left trigger to go in and out of ball mode.
Okay.
Because if you go in and out of ball mode, then you'll be back to just normal upright Samus in the air, and then you can do a Shine Spark from the air.
Nice.
Yeah, those are 2 tips.
I feel like the game should have by default switched the bumpers and triggers, but I've played so much of the game now that if I went to the settings and switched bumpers and triggers, I would just keep messing up in the opposite direction. But so many times I'll be running from an Emmy and like try to aim my grapple, and I'll turn into a ball in the middle of the fucking air, and I'll fall to my death.
I saw a lot of people saying that, and not only was I too far into the game to switch it. In retrospect, I don't actually think it's true because I think that the shoulder buttons, not the triggers, are actually much easier. If you're having, there's parts in this game where you got to be like holding down 2 different shoulder buttons, holding down a button with your thumb, and then using your thumb knuckle to like do a backdash. And if you're like claw gripping the controller like that, I'm like, no, it's actually better that it's on the shoulder button, I think.
For me, it's the Halo put jump on the A button, so jump is on the A button for everyone now. Same simple thing with aiming down the sights. So for me, holding that trigger is aim, and that's what my brain says aim, and that finger twitches, you know? So
something I'm really had to learn as the game went on was that you don't always have to hold down the aim button. You could just fucking freeball it. Which is actually a lot harder, like to just shoot while moving. But you can, right? Yeah. And a lot of bosses, sometimes just running and blasting is better than stopping and aiming. Yeah. That's something that it's like, oh, if I'm just running and blasting, 1 out of 3 of my missiles will actually hit, but I'm like in motion, right? And I'm not sitting there waiting for it to hit me.
My favorite thing about Metroids is right now we are technically spoiling it for Bernard, and yet it's a Metroid game, so nothing we've said is any different for the past 25 years.
Who gives a fuck? I mean, there are some new techniques in this game that are fucking sick. Insanely cool new mechanics and abilities. But mostly though, it's just like, man, what a well does like just real snappy, just good feeling action. Overall, my verdict.
Yes.
Oh, 2 things. First of all, plot turns out, spoiler alert, it's fucking stupid.
Yep.
But also, who cares? Because it's Metroid. If I cared about the lore of Metroid, I would be mad. But the good thing about Metroid, and the reason I like it so much, is that it is so light on plot that, like, I actually really do care about the plot of Metroid. I think it's really interesting and cool. But But one thing that's so cool about it is how minimalist it is. So because it's so minimalist, they can't really like quote ruin it. I'm more just like, well, that was dumb. But at any rate, my verdict is it's not as good as Metroids 1, 2, 3, or 4, but better than everything else.
You think it? I think it's better than Fusion. I think it's better than 4.
Nah, I don't think it's better than Fusion.
I
Mostly
think it's
because of
better.
mostly because of how done the plot is.
Okay.
Which it is enough to matter a little bit. Also it's got some Fusion I thought had better level design. Not like aesthetically, but like design wise. It was still like this game. Like in every other Metroid game, you can like actually remember the layouts of places. And in this game, as with Samus Returns, the remake, I mean, not the original, it's just like such an overly complicated maze that you never really get any intuitive sense of it, right? You're just like when I returned back to the very first area towards the end of the game, I was like, none of this is even ringing a bell, And if you return back to the first area later in the game, you should at least be like, oh, I remember this room, right? But I wasn't. I was just like, this is just, it's like I was exploring it for the first time because it just hadn't made any kind of like iconographic impression on my brain. And I think that's kind of an issue,
Yeah,
I am interested in this trend where Nintendo gets random Western developers to do important entries in their beloved game series.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it works, and the games don't like feel westernized. They feel very much like if you played them, you would think they had been developed internally at Nintendo. Like they got a Texan developer to do Donkey Kong. They got a Canadian developer to do Luigi's Mansion 3, which is amazing. And now they got this Spanish developer to do Metroid. And I'm guessing they're just really good at picking a studio to do their stuff.
Yeah, I guess they just are, and they probably give them a lot of oversight and stuff. But yeah, and this game is a damn sight better than Samus Returns, which I
actually
liked.
Mercury's team worked on Samus Returns as well.
Well, yeah. This game is very much the same kind of thing as that game, but it's better. Yeah, I like that game, but with like a lot of asterisks. Also, when that game came out, for the record, my initial thought was, I bet this developer is making this game as training wheels. Like, I bet this developer wanted to make an original game, and Nintendo was like, "How about you remake you remake Metroid 2 instead?" Like, I'm like 99% sure that's probably what happened. And then when they announced Metroid Dread, I was like, "See, there you go. I was right." You don't really know that, but like, it makes sense to me, right? That it's like, hey, it's like the same mechanics, same design concepts, but it's kind of safe, right? You're just like remaking a game, whereas making a sequel is a lot bigger of a task.
And they clearly weren't like banking on Samus Returns because like they didn't really
minor game.
They announced it after it had been completed.
Exactly. It was a pretty minor
Metroid
game.
Dread, they hyped the fuck up because they were like, yeah, this is Metroid 5, bitch.
Yeah, Metroid Dread is everything that was good about Metroid Samus Returns, all the good stuff, but better. But also without all the asterisks.
Yeah.
It's still got a couple of asterisks, but that's okay.
So my biggest problem with Samus Returns is the fact that Morph Ball is a double tap on a control stick, which just feels bad. And so when it pops up and I got the Morph Ball, the tutorial box scrolled. And so the first thing it says is double tap down on your control stick. I'm like, all these fucking buttons, and I'm still having to tap it down. And then the bottom part is like, or press the shoulder button. I'm like, oh, thank fucking God.
Yeah. I usually do double tap though, because that is how it has always been in the older games, and it's just muscle memory. So it took me a while to remember, oh yeah, I can just hit R instead.
Yeah, I just I cut my teeth Metroid wise on Metroid Prime 1. And a little bit on 1. I had it on the GameCube and I fucked around in it, and then I looked up cheat codes, so I didn't actually like play it. And then Metroid Prime 3 was the first time I like completed a Metroid game as intended.
Yeah. So yeah, so
are you even supposed to complete a Metroid game as intended?
For real.
That reminds me of my favorite thing about this Metroid Dread that I've seen come up. And so Samus Returns, in King K's review of it he did the other day, he had a lot of things that his problem was he was playing with mouse and keyboard on a computer, but he said that the game was bad, but he could tell it was made with love by people who really understand what's good about Metroid. It just didn't all come together. And so in this game, it all came together pretty much. And one of the things that makes Metroid is sequence breaking. And if you sequence break and you get the morph ball and bombs before your Kraid fight, you can just roll into his little tum-tum, his big goopy gross nasty tum-tum, and fill him up with bombs and beat him in like 2 seconds. And it's freaking cool.
Yep. And that's a great fight too. That's a fantastic fight.
I have seen the clip where Kraid lurches at Samus and Samus does not fucking flinch, and then she just charges up a shot and points it at him. The body language in that is so good. They made her just the biggest badass ever, which of course she is.
Yeah,
I love.
There's a part that happens later, which I will go ahead and spoil. And you may have already seen this anyway. Where you actually meet a character, and there's a lore dump, which is dumb. But when she first meets the character, I think she actually just finished like killing something, and she's in like gun pose, and then she like does like a double roll, and then she's doing kind of like a sit on the ground, but like in a tense like action pose, with like one knee up with her gun, and then she does that roll and points at the new person, and she's pointing at him, and then she realizes, this person's not a threat, and she's already kind of sitting down, so she just subtly is like, okay, and then she eases up, and then she's just kind of like sitting cross-legged, like, what's up? It's a really, really cute little cutscene.
They also, in this game, they made Samus like marginally shorter and stockier, which like makes it work twice as good. Like, she just seems more of a badass because she's not like this, like she was tall before, and like she was tall, and that made her look more feminine, and now she's like a short, like softball body type, and it just like it works, and she feels so badass. And literally, like, you go to save, and she like looks over her shoulder, makes sure the coast is clear, and then text box pops up, says, "Do you want to save?" And she looks like a badass while she does it. It's so fucking good. Like, this is the best Samus has ever been.
Yeah, also all of her suit designs are dope as hell. They're real good.
They're real good. We should talk about a different video game.
Yeah, we should. But I had to holler a little bit. I mean, I literally just beat it.